For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jack Manning. I'm the Executive Director and President of the Beaver County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to our annual State of the County event. I can't vouch for the state of the county. That's what these folks will do, but the state of the chamber is pretty good. I'll mention that in a little bit. Before I get started, I just want to mention this is a personal thing, but Beaver County lost a dear friend yesterday in Karen Barnett's. Many of you probably know Karen, have worked with Karen, associated with Karen, but she was a dear friend, colleague, confidant, mentor. When I first came to Beaver County, she worked with me at Nova and showed me the ropes of everything Beaver County. Served on an awful lot of boards, the CED board, Planning Commission, Center Township, been involved in numerous charitable events, and I just wanted to reference her passing and say that we will miss you, sweetheart. And those who know Karen know what that means. This event has turned out to overwhelm the chamber. Last year we had 168 people, which was a record crowd. We stopped taking names around 2:33 or something like that this year. So my thanks to all of you for being here on this rainy morning, but at least it's not snow. Could be worse, right, Sandie? Before we proceed, what I'd like to do is recognize our main sponsor and have Harry Kunzelman from Strasburger, McKenna, Gutnick, and Gefsky come up. As you can see, they're our main sponsor this year in your program, but Harry, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Jack. I'm very pleased to welcome all of you here this morning. This is another record attendance for the State of the County event for the Chamber, and I think it speaks volumes for the work that Jack has done and the Chamber staff at promoting this event every year. I think it speaks volumes about our guests, Commissioners Egley, Commissioner Camp, and of course our moderator, John Delano. So we thank all of you for being here this morning, and we hope you find it to be a rewarding networking experience and informational experience. I'm here welcoming you in two capacities today. One is in my capacity as the chair of the Government Affairs Committee of the Chamber. That committee is a very active committee. We meet once a month, and we are, I think, primarily responsible for not only this event, but other events throughout the year where we interact with our elected officials. At your tables and in the program is a set of the Chamber's legislative priorities, which I would encourage all of you to take a look at. These priorities are revisited every year by the Government Affairs Committee and then submitted to the Chamber Board for review and approval. And this committee is very active. It's a very good cross-section of people from the business community, nonprofit community, municipal and government sector. So we spent a lot of time discussing these priorities and putting them together at a period of time in Beaver County when many exciting things are happening. So if you are a chamber member and you see things that are happening that you would want the Government Affairs Committee to advocate for, please contact Jack, myself, or any of the committee members. I'm also here in my capacity as a shareholder of our law firm, Strasburger, McKenna, Gutnick, and Gefsky. We are a full-service regional law firm, and we welcome this opportunity to sponsor this event this morning. Whether you are a business that has needs in the area of corporate general counseling, transactional work, tax advice, employment issues, lending situations, business and succession planning, we have teams of people who are very prepared to assist you. On the personal side, we have folks that handle issues ranging from estate planning to family law issues. Occasionally, family members encounter some issues with the law. We can handle those situations as well. We are a full-service firm. We have an office in Beaver, we have an office in Greensburg, and an office in Pittsburgh. So we're very able to help you no matter what your issue is and pretty much no matter where you are in southwestern Pennsylvania. So with that, I'd like to turn the program back over to Jack, and thank you all for coming this morning.
Thank you, Harry. Obviously, events like this couldn't happen at the Chamber without the strong support of sponsors like Strasburger, McKinley, Gutnick, I also want to point out our moderator sponsor is West Banco. So we'd like to thank our friends at West Banco and supporting sponsors, First National Bank, the Beaver County Association of Realtors, Larson Design Group, and Lennon Smith Solray Engineering. So please thank those folks. And I always try and save to end, and I always miss somebody, but I do want to thank our chamber staff who does an outstanding job of actually fielding calls all day yesterday of people saying, I know it's probably too late, and they did know it was too late, and still tried to squeeze in here, and I think we accommodated most everybody, but I'd like to thank Rosemary Fix back there, Caitlin Coletti, our membership services, and our new event planner and coordinator, Heather Smith. So, nice job on Heather. And also with us is Kinsey Douglas. Kinsey is our new social media and graphic design person. So, some of you may know and remember Lindsay Courteau, who was our part-time planning and event coordinator. And it only took 3 part-time people to replace you, Lindsay. So, wherever you are. There. You also may notice that there's an empty seat at the end there. Unfortunately, yesterday Tony Amadeo came down with the flu, and Sandie vouches that we really don't want Tony here today. So he sends his apologies and regret. Not much we can do about that, and we hope Tony gets well soon. Before I turn things over to John Delano, just since this is the Chinese Year of the Rooster, I'm going to crow a little bit about the chamber. So, thank you. Was that lame? Was that lame? The chamber it is growing significantly. We're the 8th largest chamber in the 10-county Pittsburgh metropolitan area. As of this morning, we have 550 members. We continue to increase significantly, but most importantly, we have a highly engaged membership, as witnessed by all of you being here today at our events, and that's what we want. We want a highly engaged membership, active at our events, and getting involved with the Government Affairs Committee, our Marketing Committee, our Economic Development Task Force, and the rest of the activities that we have going on. So my thanks and appreciation to all of you, the commissioners who knew that John Delano would be such a draw today. But record crowd for you, John. Our mission is to help prepare, develop, and promote the region for economic growth. And that's our commitment. That's what we've been doing. That's what we think we're doing well and will continue to do. So we're excited about today. We're excited about what lies ahead in 2017. So with that, let me introduce John Delano, who probably doesn't need an introduction, but he is the Money and Politics editor, obviously, for KDKA. John was a graduate of Haverford College and the University of Pennsylvania Law School, served as a congressional staffer for 14 years. He's also professor at the John Hines College at Carnegie Mellon, and he writes columns for the Pittsburgh Business Times and Pittsburgh Magazine. So, John?
Thank you, Jack. Well, good morning, Beaver County. Good morning. Oh, come on, man. You can do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to be here. It's always good to be here with the Beaver County Chamber of Commerce. Jack, I think I've been doing this 3 or 4 or 5 years now, and I have absolutely no doubts that I am not the draw. Here's the draw. And we're going to talk about them in just a few minutes. I did want to say that this event is for you. And I believe there are cards on your table. that you can ask any question you wish, and I'm sure some of the chamber folks will get them back up here so that I can ask them to the commissioners. We want to make sure that we address the topics that you care most about. As I say, this is your event. I do have some questions. Some are my own, some are provided by the chamber, and we hope to have an interesting 60 minutes or so with our two commissioners. I'm sorry that Commissioner Amadeo is down with the flu. If any of you have had the flu, we're not talking just a cold. This is the real stuff. And as I guess as Commissioner Egley says, it's just as well he's not here infecting all of us. So I'm sorry about Tony's absence. He's a good guy to have on the panel. I always enjoy coming to Beaver County. I'm an Allegheny County boy, I have to admit. I grew up in Allegheny County. I don't live too far from here, but I have been so impressed with the growth in Beaver County over the years, the growth of this chamber, and I think your presence here really signifies how important Beaver County has become in southwestern Pennsylvania. We are truly a region, and we're a region that depends on all the body parts. Beaver County is a very important part of that body, and sometimes some of us in the media forget that. And I think it's always important for us to remember that it does not begin and end with the city of Pittsburgh. It does not begin and end with Allegheny County, frankly. And so the work that you do here, the work that you're doing at your companies and organizations, and indeed the health and strength of Beaver County government is essential for the success and prosperity of this region as a whole. So as I say, it's always great to be here and a chance to talk to today both Commissioner Egley and Commissioner Camp. I'm going to ask a few questions, get us started, and then again, feel free to write anything down and send it up, and I'll try to read it unexpurgated.
If they hold it up, somebody can check it.
Okay, yeah, just hold up the card and we'll come round and pick it up. All right, commissioners. There's a lot to talk about, actually. But let me just start with this. We live in the age of Twitter. What's that, 140 characters. So if you were to give me, and I'm going to ask you to give me, one word to describe the state of Beaver County. One word, and then you can explain why you picked that one word. So think a second. I can monopolize for about 10 more seconds. But come up with a word that you think reflects Beaver County right now, the state of Beaver County right now, and then take a few words to explain what you mean by that. Obviously, the commission chairman is Sandie Egley. I'm not introducing these folks. Everybody knows who they are. So, Commissioner Egley, what's that one word that you would use to describe the state of Beaver County on this February 7th, 2017?
I think it's an exciting time to be in Beaver County. So exciting would be my word.
Exciting?
Yes.
All right. Explain.
I don't know as if it needs explaining because everybody knows the things that are happening in Beaver County are unprecedented. Starting from June until now, and even before that, before Shaw announced, there's been an influx and a spotlight on Beaver County like no other. And this is the time that we're going to grow and prosper. And this is, if companies are not looking at Beaver County, they're missing out. This is the hotbed of where everything is going to happen. And so I look at that as a very exciting time.
Okay, great. We'll come back to some of those thoughts in a second. Commissioner Camp, what's the one word you would use to describe the state of Beaver County?
Good morning. The word I'd probably use is radar. And it's a little bit different than...
Radar?
Radar, yeah.
Radar, okay.
I think Beaver County is on everyone's radar. Just this past weekend, I was celebrating the Patriots Super Bowl win in Allegheny County, and a gentleman from...
Wait a minute.
If that's the only thing I'm being good for today, I'm okay with it. So, but I had a gentleman from Buffalo trying to convince his son to move to Beaver County, and he didn't know the position I held. So I had a gentleman from Buffalo that was there talking about Beaver County. And the thing that he said was Beaver County is the next up-and-coming place to raise a family, educate your kids, and start a business. So I think radar, and it's a very vague word, but I think whenever you realize how many people know where Beaver County is now, not just because of Shell, but because of the different ancillary businesses that came, radar would be my word for Twitter. Now, I did just start using Twitter, and my first tweet was to our President Trump that he needs to come down here and make sure that the United States gets the steel that Shell has. So that was my first tweet. So
good. Well, you know, I guess the president has said that pipeline steel has to be made in America, or at least that's what his wish is. Maybe he'll follow your advice on all forms of building in not just Beaver County, frankly, throughout the region. All right, well, let me pick up on that word. Exciting, radar, this is the place to be. Beaver County is where it's at. You know, now everybody's looking at Beaver County. But if I'm a family man, why would I want to move to a county, frankly, that just raised property taxes by 17%? I mean, why? I could go to a county that didn't raise property taxes this year, like, say, Allegheny County. So, commissioners, why the property tax raise?
The property tax increased to 25 mils and plus one for debt. I want you to put it in perspective. Taxes haven't been raised in over 8 years. That increase is about 17%, which it's equivalent to about $93 per taxpayer. So it's like almost a cost of living. You can't run government without incremental increases. I think everybody in this room can understand that. Things go up, wages go up, price of a pencil goes up. And that kind of thing has to be accounted for. Absolutely nobody runs to raise taxes. Nobody. It was a very difficult decision that we had to make. And we wouldn't have made it without careful consideration. We had unprecedented a number of public meetings. We called every elected official, every department head. We had almost 50 public meetings and called every person in that courthouse to the carpet and said, go line by line. I want to talk about your revenue and your expenses, both of them. So we went through and we cut a lot of money, a lot of programs. And that's not the first thing that we did. That was in a long list of things that got us here. But absolutely, we're trying our very best to keep taxes under control.
Commissioner Camp, I should add that this vote for this tax increase, I believe, was unanimous. Maybe not initial starting positions, but it was unanimous in the end. Commissioner Camp, why a 17% tax hike?
Commissioner Egley, hit the nail on the head there. I think it's important for everyone to understand that whenever as someone running their own budget at home, there's increases each year. I'm just going to give a few examples. When we took office, of course, everyone knew about the deficit that we found in the county. There wasn't things budgeted for that were contracts that had to be paid. Commissioner Egley said we ended all the contracts that were unnecessary. We revised a lot of them. But I think one of the important things is we have 849 employees on the payroll right now. Not all of them are collecting health care, but the majority of them are. Last year we spent over $11 million in health care. What the county budgeted for before we took office didn't change for years. They budgeted the same amount. So right there was an increase. And when our property levels, our revenue coming in were lower than that we had on the budget, it was something that needed to be done. We tried to hold the line. Like Sandie said, we held 38 public meetings with elected officials and department heads, plus other ones. We held a 6-hour meeting to pass the first budget, and we had a lot of input from the community. And with that, I'm going to give a little plug here. It's good to see so many people wanting to find out what's going on in county government. We have 24 public meetings and 52 work sessions, and everyone is welcome to come and ask these questions anytime they want. So it's good to see everyone here today, but I would like to see more participation because we take what the community, what the business leaders in Beaver County have to say, and we take that back to the office, and we put that into our strategy. So, we have 9 different unions, 9 different contracts. whether we go to arbitration and they get a 3% raise. Our non-union employees are taking a pay freeze for the second year in a row. We are taking an increase in health care. So there's different situations that I think it's important for the public to understand. So, and we cut a lot of subsidies, so subsidies and contracts. So we're really holding the line, but like Sandie said, no one runs to raise taxes.
Right. I want to come back to the reducing expenditures in a minute, but let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. Basically, you're saying this was a catch-up cost of living tax hike, making up for the failure to raise taxes in years past?
No, you don't have a $70 million budget by just plugging it and blaming it on one certain thing. The only way that Beaver County makes money is through taxes. So you have a line item in which you make what we bring in. We were spending $10 million above that. That's real money. $10 million. You can't run your house like that. And through the years, that kept happening. We get in there and we have to fix that. It's not something that happened the year we got in here. It's been happening for years.
Commissioners, can you pledge that there will be no further tax increases during the remainder of your 3-year term? You have 3 more years in the term.
I don't think you can.
Well, we have 2 contract negotiations this year.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they're both arbitratable. So I can't say we're going to sit here and pledge, but we're going to work our hardest.
We are, absolutely.
We're changing the way the budget's going to be done. We're going to start looking at it quarterly instead of yearly. I think previous boards, they would look at it at the end of the year and say, present your budget, whether they passed it or not. We have Ricardo Luco, our financial administrator. He works day in and day out, just talking to somebody over here, and they're receiving emails from him at 7:30 at night. So to see somebody in there that's dedicated to hold that line with us, it's important. So we're going to work our hardest not to.
And we get updates every 2 weeks on our where we are in our cash flow and where the budgets are in each of these departments, and so it's not at the end of the year the oh moment. That's kind of, you don't want to get there, right?
I know those moments.
So
I experience those in television.
I mean, and more so even more so than that. Not looking year to year. You got to look at long term. I mean, I have another 3 years, and I want to know that the next person, or if it's me, that we have something to look forward to. I want a goal. I'm a benchmark kind of a person. That's my background. I want to make sure that in next year and the year after, I want to have the goals and achieve them. And if you don't reach those benchmarks, you got to find out why and fix that early.
Good. When you were here last year when we did this program, you were brand new. And obviously you've had a year in public office. So, Commissioner Camp, I'm going to start with you on this one. What surprised you the most about Beaver County government over this past year? What has surprised you the most?
The politics that are played. I think Sandie and I both, and Commissioner Amadeo both have showed that we are a bipartisan team, and we're going to make the best decision for the taxpayers of Beaver County. And if the worst decision we made this year was to raise the taxes to get us back to where we need to be to move Beaver County forward in the right direction, like Sandie said, we have a long-term plan. Whether the 3 of us are going to be here in 4 years, or 1 or 2, or we don't know who's going to be here, but we want to make sure that if we are not here, we're going to leave the next board in a financially stable situation so that they don't have to take over something that we did last January.
But what do you mean when you say the politics?
Well,
the chairman is deferring to her colleague.
The 849 positions that we have in the courthouse, I think everyone understands that, when you walk into the courthouse, I talked about this in budget meetings, and I took some slack from elected officials and department heads asking if they think they had too many employees. There's different things, contracts, employees, the way people get on boards. It's just, you know, I think we just were coming into office. You know, we didn't realize how much more went into each decision than what took place. So not only politics. I mean, the other biggest surprise was probably the deficit. So.
Dan, thank you. Sandie, how about you? What surprised you the most about Beaver County government now that you've been there for a year?
Well, the budget was a shocker, but after you think about it, you know, that can be fixed. It is the politics of it. I'm new to this arena. This is not something that, I come from engineering firms, and you have a team, and they have a goal. And sure, there's some bickering back and forth, but politics is just a kind of evil that I just had no idea about. And I feel like I'm sometimes still naive to what happens. But, you just kind of put your pencil to the paper and think, there is a goal, and I'm going to stay focused, and that drama can happen all around me, but I have a job to do. And so I think that's kind of, I look at myself I looked at a picture from last year at this time, and I look at myself then, and I feel like that was so many years ago. It really does. And I look at that, and I was like, oh, she's such a baby. She had no idea what she was getting into.
County government ages you?
Yeah, it really, truly does. I mean, I have grown so much personally and professionally. It's just miles apart from where I was a year ago. And I can only imagine in 3 years.
Good. Thank you for your honest reflections on that. I think that's an important question. I'm glad you were on. Yes, Jennifer. Let me remind everybody, if you have cards, just wave them. We want to collect them so I can start asking some of the questions that you might have. I do want to ask this question because it kind of comes out of this notion of politics in the courthouse, which we all know is there. It's in every courthouse, in every county in Pennsylvania. But there have been reports, allegedly, of infighting, even among commissioners. Lack of communication, maybe, or working together, or whatever. The fact is, of course, that each of the three of you are elected independently to reflect your own independent views. And I think anybody who would criticize commissioners for having independent views just doesn't understand the process. But is there infighting in Beaver County government among the commissioners? And whether there is or not, looking to the future, how might you work better? How do you think you might work better together, all three of you? Any one of you want to take that, Dan?
I don't think, I wouldn't say infighting. I think, I'm just going to use the law firm that sponsored us here. I'm sure they agree to disagree on a lot of things. They're at their boardroom, and they disagree. Commissioner Egley and Commissioner Beaver and myself, there are a lot of things. For instance, the taxes. We each had a different number that we were willing to go to. When we are in the room, we think what is the best decision that is going to be made for the citizens of Beaver County. And once we leave that room, if we disagree, we're not going to hold it against each other. So, like you said, it's a rumor. I mean, of course, everyone disagrees, but I wouldn't say that we infight. No.
No, there's no yelling. I mean, it's not. We don't go and it's not like three brothers and sisters fighting it out. But we absolutely do disagree and agree on a lot of things. And it's how you handle that is really what the public wants to see, is how you handle that. I'm not sure if there is any other commissioner board that has 3 generations representing them. Dan...
Now that's an interesting thought.
Really. Dan is in his late 20s. I'll just leave it at that. And I'm in my 45 to 55 range. And Tony, he's a little older. So, that means that there are completely different viewpoints. And to me, that is such a benefit to Beaver County, because Dan thinks of things that I would never, he's probably tweeting right now. I am not. So, and I think that that's a benefit to Beaver County. And of course, we're going to have some disagreements. That's what a board of 3 is supposed to do. And we're supposed to hash this out. And we have been. We've been hashing it out in public. And that's what you see when he says, I don't think it should be that way. And I said, well, I think it most certainly should. And so you have to work that out. It's nothing like, it's very similar to a family situation. You put you all together in Christmas and you're going to have some, Thanksgiving table, just imagine, okay? Somebody walks away a little mad, but they come back. And then you got to deal with the situation. So I think it's all in how you handle it.
Good, thank you. We are getting some questions in, so feel free to send some more up. Here's one. I'm just going to read the question. Now that 2016 year-end has closed, can you give an update on the 2016 deficit or surplus? Do you know those figures yet?
I think it's a little early to talk about those numbers. There's certainly a positive note to where we are. We're not $10 million in debt. It's more in the range of $2 million that we're looking at. But it's definitely, we're in a definite better position than we were last year.
Well, it sounds much better than last year, but still a deficit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, just to clarify, Commissioner Egley is saying that after everything we've done, if we have all the expenditures that we're prepared to have, we're going to have $2 million in debt. But that doesn't mean that's where we are. Like I said before, we're going to start reviewing the budget quarterly and seeing where these departments have a little bit of cushion in their budgets. Anyone has done a budget, especially one over, let's say, one of our larger departments is, for instance, the jail. It's a couple $1 million. So they look at, if where they were last year compared to this year and how they could cut spending. So it is a little bit early. I'd say, our first meeting will probably be in about a month or so to decide where we need to be and where we need to start making cuts. Because when we passed that budget, we vowed to the citizens that we were going to continue this and continue cutting expenses and get to where we need to be.
Well, along that line, there's another question here, which basically says, how about cutting costs in programs versus raising taxes? Duplicate or frivolous programs. You've done some cutting, a lot of cutting. Where are we in that process? Where do you think we're headed in 2017?
I think one of the important things is this board is really looking at, this board in the legal department is really looking at what the county code says each department needs to do, what we are by law, by the statute says that we have to do. You don't want to cut everything down to bare bones, but there might be a time where we have to cut everything down to bare bones to be able to build it back up, to give more. So, we are in the process of looking at everything. But, right now and this is where I'd recommend, if you see something that is being duplicated, please feel free to call or feel free to come in to one of our meetings and say this. If you don't want to make it public, you could always send an email or a letter. But, we are open to everything. But the duplicated things that take place, if there are some, we will cut them as long as we are not mandated by each department to do it.
Commissioner Egley?
Yes, I agree with Dan, and we do have benchmarks that we're looking at this year and what our goals are and what we want to achieve. Right now, our bond rating, Standard & Poor rated us as a negative outlook. That is a very serious obstacle that we have to overcome, and that is from years of neglect in that budget. So we need to get Beaver County stable financially. Absolutely the #1 priority. This year I'm seeing that is a year of looking at process improvements in these departments. How can we do things better, more efficient, without cutting into customer service, because that is your house, that is your courthouse. And so we're looking at a lot of those different things. I'll tell you that energy efficiency in these buildings, we have to look at that. You know, some of the heating and cooling elements, they're broken and they need to be fixed. We have a lot of county property that we want to look at to put back on the market and sell those off, because it just costs taxpayers money to cut that grass and maintain those properties. Consolidation. I mean, that's a big word in Beaver County right now. Consolidation, and there's some things that we can consolidate and other things that you can't. So, and so we're looking at all of those types of things this year, among others that kind of hit us, kind of blindside us in the middle of the year. You know, because you never know what.
Right. There's always the unexpected.
There's always the unexpected.
And I don't think people realize how much there's actually cut. I mean, I don't want to point her out, but I talked to her earlier. Jody Oliver, our director of Library Commission. You know, we had a budget meeting with her in November, and she came to us and said, if I cut the 12% that you ask, there's going to be no more Library Commission in Beaver County. So the year before, whenever she cut the $100,000 of her roughly $350,000 budget, you know, there's not much more that these departments can do. And that's, you know, that's one of the services we don't want to see cut. But, you know, I think what's important is that we are all in this together, and the board is going to make the best possible decision for the citizens.
Right. As you know, in a couple hours, Governor Wolf is going to present a state budget to the state legislature that would take effect for the fiscal year beginning July 1st. Are you concerned that Harrisburg is not giving Beaver County its due? Are you worried about cuts of state funding? Because from every account that we're hearing, it's going to be a pretty austere budget in the state of Pennsylvania. Does that concern either of you, commissioners? Have you talked to your state legislators about that issue?
I see it as a big concern, but other than talking with our state representatives and our congressmen and our senators here, I can't take a hissy fit and say I want my money. But you know, it kind of, what are you going to do? You have to wait until you hear what he has to say, and then you have to deal with what you're given. To me, it's cut and dry, and we will deal with what he gives us.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
One of the larger subsidies that we get from the state is our behavioral health, Office of Aging, Children Youth Services. So if we see a state budget pass and we get a large cut from it, we'll probably sit in that department. So we'll work with Gerard, Mike, Dana Rive, and see, you know, once their budget's passed, because they run on the same fiscal calendar year as the state.
Right. Okay. Were you about to say something? If not,
well,
go ahead.
And we faced this budget crunch last year, and those directors have absolutely prepared and as much as they absolutely can, and we really depend on the directors that we have over in the Human Services building to prepare for things like this as much as they can. And they're going through a lot of renovations over in the Human Services building. So, but we have some really good people over there. Not only just the directors, but the entire staff over there. They do things that I didn't know that Beaver County did. You know, with CYS, Children and Youth Services, there's nothing more heart-wrenching than to go over for their Christmas party, and all of the foster kids come over and they're running around, and one child had never seen Santa, and that was the first time that they saw Santa. So I want to give an applause to our Human Services building. They see things and they do things that really. So I applaud them.
Does that mean there'll be
Thank
no
you.
cut in human and social services programs in Beaver County this year? Just asking.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that depends on the state. I will
That
say.
is,
I mean, it
right.
depends on
That's
the
why I
state.
said we have to wait and to see what he gives us and how we do with it.
Yeah. This is a rather lengthy question, and to be honest, I'm not sure I know the full background on this, but let me just read the question to you, Commissioners. A woman in Ambridge was arrested last night for child endangerment after falling on her baby. Now, we've done stories on that on KDK, following a heroin overdose. In light of the opiate epidemic in the county, why is the county not working more closely with Gateway Rehab and instead choosing a company from out of town to build a new treatment facility? And the questioner says, this wastes precious tax dollars and denies care to those who need it. Is that in fact true? Are you working with an outside company and not with Gateway Rehab? And what is the tax consequence of that? Commissioner Kemp.
I'll answer this. That is one of the first things that when we took office, we've had meetings about. Obviously, we want to, excuse me, we want to make sure that we keep businesses in Beaver County, give them the fair chance to, work with the county. But we met with our directors over behavior health. We just talked about them, and we've asked and we've tried to negotiate different prices with Gateway Rehab in Center Township, and the contract that we have now is more affordable for the county, and that our director over behavior health is agreeing that they do a good job. So we take their recommendation. That's what they're hired for. So and I don't want to say that they're not working closely with the opioid epidemic. I think that's a false statement. I think our behavior health is really involved there.
Right.
So it's a pretty vague question.
Good. Well, thanks for responding. Sandie, did you have thoughts on that one?
In 2015, we had 37 ODs for heroin, and in 2016, it jumped up to 102, and there are 2 cases pending. We are absolutely aware that this is a problem, not only in Beaver County, but all over the United States. And how we face this problem when you can't even identify the group of people that it affects, because it can affect somebody in their 20s or an 80-year-old. So this is a problem that is happening all over. And I think that the provider that we use is really not the focal point to what's actually happening. We have to address. I attended a funeral for a 19-year-old boy. That is heart-wrenching to see a mother lose their son or daughter. This is not going unnoticed by the county, and they are addressing every possible way they can. We have a drug you can bring back your prescriptions, and we have drop-off sites. We have an ESU team that is absolutely making progress every day in fighting crime, and these our DA did a roundup of 66 heroin users or drug users in the last 6 months, and the Attorney General was here in Beaver County. I mean, the Attorney General doesn't come down, unless you have something big going on. And so I think that Beaver County is really trying to put its very best foot forward in helping our residents and getting the best treatment and care, not just putting them in jail. So it's all about how we can help, and everybody, every user or every person that's involved with drugs is different, and we have to, and that actually costs money. So
let me just the follow up to that question though, and somebody just sent another card up, is it really doing a service to Beaver County residents to make them spend money and inconvenience to travel out of the county for addiction treatment services and the like? The questioner is asking that rather than using gateway rehab.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. The question is, can you explain why Beaver County is costing, this is the allegation at least, those addicted by heroin and opioids more money and inconvenience to travel out of the county for addiction treatment instead of using gateway rehab?
I think when I answered the first part of the question, it was more feasible for the county and just as good, if not better, served. It's not saying it's not better served, but for the contract that we have, per our director of behavior health, saying that that's the contract we should go with. So,
okay. So you're challenging. I mean, the questioner is saying it. You know, talking about the
we've had meetings with Gateway Rehab regarding this. So,
okay, good. Let me ask you, moving on to the cracker plant, because when we met a year ago, that was not. I mean, we all thought it was going to happen, but it wasn't quite the reality that it is right now. Question: do you have any specific plans for marketing the county proactively versus just hoping that with Shell here, others will follow? Talk about the proactive marketing plan, if you think the county should have or does have with respect to this opportunity.
Absolutely. So when I came in, when Dan and I came into office, we saw that there were a lot of kind of silos, planning and redevelopment and the economic development boards. We weren't in a coordinated effort. So I'm going to put Jack Manning on the spot. And I would like him to kind of give a brief summary of all of the efforts in which Beaver County is bringing together a lot of volunteer work and a lot of the county agencies and businesses to bring together, and we've now invented the Beaver County Partnership, and I would like Jack to kind of give a brief overview.
I'm sorry, I don't have a microphone.
Yes,
actually, this is your mic, Jack.
Come on.
Well, thanks, Sandie. This wasn't on the agenda, but
I gotta go off the agenda.
But we are very excited. The Chamber, the Corporation for Economic Development, the Redevelopment Authority, Planning Commission, the Commissioner's Office, and a whole bunch of private and public businesses have gotten together. We formed this Beaver County Partnership. We're about 9 months into this process. The purpose of the partnership is to get Beaver County, get the region growing again in population and job growth. We're not smart enough to know if people come first or jobs come first, but we know you can't have one without the other. So the whole impetus has been behind trying to grow Beaver County, market Beaver County, and get people engaged in the process. We've got 5 councils. There are some council chairs here that are doing this. We're focusing on jobs in the economy, obviously. Quality education. Dr. Beaver is here from CCDC. He's heading up that council. We have all 14 school districts in Beaver County. We have Geneva, Penn State, Beaver, CCDC, RMU at the table talking cooperatively, along with a whole bunch of other workforce development training providers, really trying to figure out how do we have the right pathways, have the right education to fill all these jobs that are anticipated to come, including the jobs just from the baby boomers who are retiring and probably won't be working in 10 years. So quality education, jobs in the economy, quality of life. Val McKelvey's here. She's heading up our Quality of Life Council, looking at all the great amenities we have in Beaver County. We want to keep what makes Beaver County great. We don't want to ruin that. We want to have good planning so that land use is done correctly, and we have the right amenities to attract and retain people. And then good government. Rebecca Matsko, some folks from the COG are here and different things. Rebecca's heading that up to make sure local government is aligned with county government and state and local as we go forward. And the last thing we're looking at is desirable housing. You have to have the right housing for people and growth. So we're looking at revitalizing neighborhoods in our traditional downtowns and boroughs and new developments like the one that's going to happen in Chippewa with about 250 Ryan homes being built for the first time in Beaver County. So it's a comprehensive look at how we grow the county into a partnership that's now involving probably upwards to 150 some people across Beaver County, and you'll be hearing more and more about that as we go forward.
Great. Thank you, Jack. It sounds to me, though, that the commissioners are essentially are working with and delegating the marketing efforts to organizations like the Beaver County Chamber of Commerce and others, right?
Absolutely.
That's the quick answer to that question. I have to tell you, again, I'm going to put on my media hat, that it's so, this is a problem for all local media. We tend to get focused on the negative, obviously, and not on the positive when it comes to news with respect to every part of this region. And I was struck the other day, for example, is that the media doesn't talk about some of these things that Jack just mentioned and Commissioner Egley just mentioned. Instead, we focus on the fact that Macy's is moving out of the Beaver County Mall, the Beaver Valley Mall. And that gets the big headline. And so I guess the question, maybe it's more of a comment than a question, is that it's really essential to be very proactive in getting messages out, because it's very easy for those of us who follow day-to-day stories to pick up on something that's negative and have that characterize what everyone else is doing that's positive. Maybe that's a chance for you to say what we in the media could do better. And it's not just television, it's print too. Go ahead, Dan, I'll give you that shot.
Quick fact, there's been 140 plus articles in the Beaver County Times since the last state of the county about the commissioners.
You've actually counted that up, 140 articles.
I have them all, so.
You have them all.
I am a paid subscriber, so. But I think what's important, like you said, is that we stress the positive going on in the county. We see, you read the headlines, I guess negative titles of stories probably sell the newspaper, but for one example, we have the Crows Run project finally coming to fruition. I don't know how many people travel Freedom Crider Road, but if you go there and look, you'll see that it's really starting to happen. And I personally, I know they're not here, they're in session, but I personally want to thank Senator Vogel and Senator Marshall, or Representative Marshall, for voting and passing that transportation bill to bring that to fruition. This won't only give us easy access to Butler and Allegheny counties, but it gives them better access to Beaver County. So whenever they want to come do business here, finally we have a better route of transportation from there. So it is important. I think for every negative story you run, you should run 2 positive stories.
I think you wish for a lot.
Oh, that's
Sandie.
true.
That would be nice if we could keep that kind of score. But there are a lot of very good positives coming out of Beaver County. PGG Trucking shall purchase their property, and it was on a decision by the trucking company they wanted to stay here, and we worked with the CED and found them a place in Hopewell. So we retained that company, but I'm not so blind to see that there are bad things happening, but you have to celebrate the good too. And Columbia Gas just built a facility in which they train hundreds of workers a month up by the Beaver Valley Mall. And to say that the mall, just looking at Macy's, the mall was up for sale for about 6 months on and off, and they pulled it off and put it back on the market. But if Beaver County was not the place to be, they wouldn't have spent almost $25 million to purchase that big plot of land up in Center Township. So I think that people are seeing that there is opportunity here, and that this is the place to be.
Good. Thank you. We have a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up in about 10 minutes, so there's time for everybody to mingle and talk to the commissioners directly if they'd like. Here's a question. Does Beaver County have a county-wide compost system, or are there any plans for one, or any mention of it in a county master plan?
That is an odd question. But
Well, it's right here.
is Holly here? No? Because she's our director for waste management, and she is absolutely thriving in her role. We do have a compost area up in Brighton Township, and what's happening with that is so they rotate that compost, and then they sell it to Lowe's and Home Depot and other people that need the compost. And actually, we've been doing very, very well in that area.
Okay.
And that's an unusual question, but she is bar none one of the shining stars in the director's area, because she's really taking the waste management arena and has really done some unusual things, like that we have now where Beaver County has a shred truck, and we're shredding all of our documents. And she's doing a lot of recycling that we have never done before. And we're seeing a lot, since Best Buy closed up at the mall, there's an influx of television sets. And where do you put them? And they don't belong in the woods. Right. So she's really taking the bull by the horns, and she's really working with that. And
well, I hope you can solve that TV set problem. I've done stories on that. I've got a couple of old ones in my basement. You can't get rid of them.
No, I know it's a problem.
Yeah, right. Well,
if you move to Beaver County, we'll take them from you.
So, that's right. Yeah, you should move.
I should move. Yeah, right.
You should move.
Here's another question. This goes, frankly, an environmental issue. How do you reconcile economic development and the potential of the ethane cracker with its environmental impact here in Beaver County? Either real or unreal, there's certainly a perception that there's going to be issues there.
I think one of the important things is Shell. So far, Shell has been a great neighbor to have. I think the federal government, the state government, local government, they're going to hold them to the highest standards for them to be able to come here. So it's something as long as they pass all their tests that they need to, you think, we live 5 miles away from a nuclear power plant. Where have the protests and where have the activists been for us, drinking the water for the last 50 years when that was in place? So I think it's important that the citizens of Beaver County understand that they're going to be held at the extreme highest standards. So
I guess another way of putting it, that are current environmental rules and regulations sufficient to protect the residents of Beaver County with the construction of the cracker plant?
Yes.
Your answer is yes, Commissioner.
I believe so.
Commissioner Egley, same question.
I have to give an applaud to the Potter Township Council. There's 3 members, and they have been inundated with these meetings, and I've attended every one of them. And I'll tell you, that one that lasted until almost 1:30 in the morning, it was brutal. But I watched that council of these three people, and they paid attention to every. I mean, when you're talking about 1:30 in the morning, and you started at 3 in the afternoon, you would think that somebody would daze off and kind of, like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I'm here. But they were so intent on making sure that they got this right. And I have to tell you, I saw them writing notes, and they would talk to each other, and they would take time out. And I think that they have done an extremely good job at making sure that not only Potter is safe, but the surrounding area. And I have to tell you that they did an extremely difficult job and an extreme stress, and handled it very well. And I think that they've made the concessions or demands to Shell that were absolutely needed to protect our residents, and they've done a very good job but I do think that they are making sure that they adhere to all of those requirements from the DEP, the EPA, air quality, and they've gone through the whole gamut, and they've analyzed it, and they've asked Shell to compromise on things, and they go back to the table, and it's a discussion, and so I think that they've worked that out very well.
So, the same question that I asked Commissioner Camp, you're satisfied that current existing regulations are sufficient to protect Beaver County residents? Okay, good. Last three questions, well, I don't know how quick, let's see how quick. This one, budget cutting can be difficult. This is a morale question. Budget cutting can be difficult for employees. What are you doing to create a positive, healthy work culture in county government? You talked about a pay freeze there a little bit ago, Dan, I think. And still retain the best employees possible.
Well, despite what some employees are very appreciative of the new board, and some are not, and that's going to happen anywhere. And we have tried. We just had a director of EMS retire, and we surprised him with cake and ice cream. I mean, I know that sounds like trivial, but when we had 76 people take the retirement package that we offered last year, we threw a retirement party for all of them. I mean, those are just some of the things in which we're trying to keep morale up, and sometimes you falter. And I told somebody, and I said an apology last week because I didn't. She came down, and it was one of the jury commissioners, and she said, before you voted on it, I wish you would have come up and tell me that you're going to disband the jury commissioners. And I said, you're right. I should have walked up that stairs, and I didn't, and I'm sorry, and I really mean that. But I think that people are going to understand that we're real, and that we're trying our very best in a very bad situation. And the commissioners unit, everybody that falls under the commissioners unit didn't get a raise last year. And so far, they haven't gotten a raise this year. But that's not unlike a lot of you sitting here. I mean, we're all facing tough times. We're all being asked to do more with less. We're all working more hours. But I'm trying my very best to, when I walk through the courthouse and you walk into these offices and wish them a happy weekend and go Steelers or things like that. I think that goes a long way. I'm trying to reach out with just the employees that work in the courthouse. So.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner Camp, your thoughts on morale and the...
Well, I think when we took office, we upset a lot of people, and I'm not afraid to say it, but to be someone's boss, you can't be their best friend either. You have to do what's in the best interest of the county. I still walk down the halls every day and say hi to everyone. I actually got accused to try and run somebody over this summer. And I don't know if anyone knows me, but that's the last thing I do. But I still see that person every day, and I still say good morning to them. So, I think just having a positive workplace and knowing that the majority of the workers in our courthouse or is employed by Beaver County, that they're a citizen, so we represent them as well. So ultimately, they are our boss. Even though we think we're their boss, but they're the ones that pay our salary. So I think just when we get out in the halls and everyone knows that we want the best for the county, and I think they need to understand that.
Thank you both. Last year we talked about reassessment in Beaver County. You remember that conversation? I mean, neither one of you support reassessment of Beaver County. At least that was your thought at the time. Questioners suggesting that maybe it's inevitable that the courts will order reassessment for Beaver County. Do you have any thoughts on what's happening on that score, and have you changed your mind as to the need to reassess in this county?
I personally, and I think I'm going to let Sandie speak as well. Hopefully she agrees with me. We are, as a board, strongly against a reassessment. I don't think what the average citizen, unless you're involved with what goes on in our courthouse, they need to understand it's going to cost us $8 to $10 million to do a reassessment. And that's if it's done properly. Allegheny County, I'm sure you've done a few stories on that. You guys had to do it twice. So I think it's important that, our law department and we have local municipalities that are joining the fight now. We don't want to see reassessment, and we're going to fight that till the end.
Commissioner Egley?
I agree with everything that Dan said.
Good. See, there's no fighting here. No fighting in Beaver County. At least on that issue. So, here's the final question. Both of you, we began by using the word exciting and radar to describe the state of Beaver County right now. Project ahead a year. What is your vision? What do you hope when we gather again next year at this time? What is it that you hope you can say about progress made in Beaver County in 2017? Commissioner Camp, and we'll give Commissioner Egley the last word.
I hope Jack Manning and the Beaver County Chamber of Commerce has 150 new members. So that means people are coming to Beaver County. So I think I think it's important that next year we could come here and say that raising taxes weren't on the table. Important to say that we are running county government more efficiently, as Sandie said earlier. That's something that was one of our goals last year. But whenever you come into office and have a new hurdle every day, it's not something to work on. I mean, I think we each had our own goals and things we wanted to change when we took office, but that all took the back seat whenever we saw what we were dealt. So, I hope next year that, our department head, our elected officials can run a financially stable office, and next year we can report that we have a clean slate.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Egley, your vision, your thought, what is it you would like to be able to say about Beaver County a year from now?
I would like to see the mindset of every Beaver County be a positive one. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. You pull up to the gas station and you're like, well, at least it's not snowing. Yeah, and Macy left too, and she's now, they're not giving any money to the Humane Society, and I'll tell you, it's just, yeah. But, there's a lot of really good things that are happening here, and we tend to overlook those. And what I see is these young families that are raising their children, and they're seeing the hope of Beaver County, and they're sending their child to CCBC, and they're staying here in the county. And that's what I hope to see moving forward, is that these families can stay together and stay in Beaver County, or just the region, more or less. I have 3 children. I have still one at home. And I'm hoping that he chooses to stay in the area. The other 2, my older 2, are one just bought a house, and one is still at finding his way. So that's what I would really hope that we go back to that family concept and stay here where your roots are and your families are.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Beaver County is fortunate, in my view, to have 3 county commissioners, whether you agree with them or not, who are willing to be frank and honest and to share their points of view in a forum like this. How about a big round of applause for our Jack, the meeting is yours.
Thank you, John. And you made this hour go by pretty quickly, so big round of applause for John. It's always great to have John here. And again, my personal thanks to the commissioners for doing this. It's an important forum for chamber members who normally can't get away from work, even though I know you've changed your work sessions to some evening and day. But this is an important opportunity for Chamber membership to have this kind of an interaction with you, as we try and do with our state legislators as well. So with that, I'd like again to thank our main sponsor, Strasburger, McKenna, Gutnick, and Gefsky. I managed to get that out okay this time. We'd like you to hang around for some photos when we're done. Our supporting sponsors, West Banco, First National Bank, Beaver County Association of Realtors, Larson Design, and Linda Smith Solray Engineering, and again, the terrific Chamber staff, and thank all of you. So, I'm so proud of you.